Oh, good. You're dressed like a referee, so there will be fairness today.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric, you said at first about these thugs in Texas. Why was nobody arrested? All those license plates are recorded on video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, good. The FBI's, but I mean, he's at war with his own FBI, right? He's already tweeting, "Oh, leave them alone. They're patriots." I mean, this is really. How many of the FBI agents just wrote a letter saying, "Do not fire Chris Wray"? Because that's obviously the next thing. Day after the election, Wray, Dr. Fauci, you name it.
Fauci. Yep. Oh, and just the trying to drive the Biden bus off the highway.
Yeah.
There was a quote from a Texas sheriff in I don't know, I guess it was Harris County. I don't know where they were. He said, "Well, they didn't tell us they were going to drive through, and if you're going to drive through with a confrontational sign, we need to know in advance." He said there was something fishy about the timing. He's actually blaming, the Biden bus driver and the campaign for not telling drive through town, and we might get attacked. I guess.
Yeah.
This
It's
the way it works
insane.
now.
Well, I mean, and you retweeted Sam Stein, who said police using pepper spray at a voter rally in North Carolina. Trumpers try to drive a Biden bus off the road and getting a shout out from the president. An effort to get a judge to throw out 100,000 votes in Texas. Quite the close of the campaign here. And you said it's called authoritarianism. The entire GOP has signed off on this undemocratic movement, and that's the bigger story, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's in Trump 2020 campaign looked different than the 26 campaign, and because Trump wasn't talking about ballots being thrown out. He wasn't doing all this stuff. So if he thinks American elections are riddled with fraud, why wasn't he saying that in 2016? It's because he's become so empowered with this autocratic power. And he feels like he can get it with anything because the Republican Party has showed him he can get it with anything over the last 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, as you said too about the thing I just played about doctors making money off this. You just said there is no bottom. And the fact that he just lies, so like specific numbers, like, oh yeah, $2,000. Well, you know that they get $2,000 more. I mean, he just every single thing he said. I couldn't believe in Michigan, nobody, at least on TV when I was watching, no one checked him immediately when he's like, "Michigan, I got you so many auto plants." I'm like, there's a million more coming. It's like Barack Obama and Joe Biden saved the auto industry in Michigan. Like I've never seen a closing argument that is not just this, of course, like just inciting violence, but every single thing he says is a complete lie.
Everything. Right. And so, claiming the doctors are making money. I mean, this is just a classic sociopath, right? I mean, when I said there is no bottom, and what Obama was saying, he can't comprehend that people are doing this for the greater good. But, it would be one thing for him to say, "Oh, Michigan, I built you new auto plants." Well, that's an obvious lie. But really, going back to this voting thing, I mean, we have never, ever seen a presidential candidate try and disrupt and obliterate the faith in public elections like Trump is saying. He's saying, and I said in my, column today at Press Run, he's going beyond during these last few days. He's not saying, there's election fraud, so we need to pass new laws. I mean, the Republican Party is trying to suppress vote for 10 years. What he's saying is don't count the votes.
Yeah.
He's saying, you can't count ballots after November 3rd, after Election Day. You have to stop all the voting. That's not how elections have been done for 100 years in this country.
Yeah.
The voting stops on Election Day. The tabulation continues for days and sometimes weeks.
We keep talking about how you can't. There is unprecedented. That word was not enough a long time ago. But Eric, you're absolutely right. This is the first time in history. This is like a kid just making up a totally new rule in the middle of a game. It's like, no, counting stops on Election Day. It's like, what? No. Like, that is literally a rule he just pulled out of his ass, that the counting has to stop on Election Day. It is go ahead.
And he's trying to, he wants the press, he wants the media to help him. So for the last 40 years, there's been this kind of game show approach to election night. And they, through crunching the numbers, are basically able to pick the winner before we all go to bed. And it's like a big game show. And so there's this assumption that all the counting stops on election night because we know who's going to win, so who cares? That's not how it works. States vote.
Yeah.
States have until early December.
Some votes don't. Some
votes.
states don't start counting the whichever
Until
votes
Tuesday.
until November 4th.
Right.
Until Wednesday. Right.
And why is that? Because Republican legislatures in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania said, no, this year, even though we're going to be inundated with early votes, even though there's a pandemic, we are not going to allow you to start counting the votes as they come in, which makes sense.
Right.
So, I mean, the scenario that everyone sees coming is Pennsylvania can't start voting, can't start counting until Election Day. They're not going to have a tally for days and days. Trump is then going to go to court and try to get as many votes as possible thrown out. We have never seen this in the history of our country, where a major party candidate is campaigning on the idea that don't count all the votes. It's all a rigged.
I have to admit a thought, Eric, is when he keeps talking about that. Oh, we have to know an election. We have to know an election day. I thought, if there is karma,
we will know.
We will know. Be careful what you wish for, because maybe, Scaramucci and Carville and a lot of others are right that we are going to know election night and it's going to be a landslide, a blowout against Trump. Keep hoping, man. I hope that electoral map that's 400 and something votes to 100 and whatever is what, but anyway, it's just, this is his closing argument. And tell me if isn't this America under Trump?
Under Biden, there will be no school, no graduations, no weddings, no Thanksgivings, no Easters, no Christmases, and no 4th of July. Other than that, you're going to have a wonderful life. Now, think of this guy, ruin American youth.
Yeah. Yeah. Think of it if it's exactly the way it is under me.
Right.
Yes. I mean,
right. I mean, all they have is projection, right? I mean, you
Right.
watch Don Jr. going on about Hunter Biden and about how supposedly corrupt he is and how it's all nepotism and he's not qualified to do anything and he's making all this money, and your eyes just kind of pop out of your head like zero self-awareness.
No,
Just
right. You're like,
absolutely none.
he's actually coked to the gills on Fox News talking about Hunter Biden's former drug problem. I mean,
Right.
yeah, Robert tweeted, as Eric and Don Jr. have spent the last 6 months talking about Hunter Biden, they were subpoenaed in real fraud investigations, and new reports revealed they tried to plead the fifth to federal and state investigators. The Trumps are in deep water, and they know it. I mean, it really is extraordinary, right? And who was it? Jonathan Turley and Jonah Goldberg on Fox News recently were just like, there is no there to this Hunter Biden story. I mean, just, right? They just said, they basically both had to say, there's just no crime here. There just is no nothing here.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why this story is right. So the story flopped, and so then the backup was, media cover up. They won't touch the Hunter Biden story. Look, the premise for the whole thing is this laptop. And no one can see the laptop except Rudy Giuliani and three people at the New York Post. So how do you expect other news organizations, even if they were willing to kind of go down this sewer rabbit hole, how would you even expect the normal news organizations to follow it if it's Rudy Giuliani saying, trust me, at this point? I mean, no honest outlet is going to touch it. And but they do have this backup. Oh, it's all conspiracy. I mean, that's what they love, the victimhood.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they want in this whole story. But obviously the Biden caper went nowhere, or the Hunter caper went nowhere.
Let's listen to him whine about election night again. Here we go.
I think it's terrible when we can't know the results of an election the night of the election in a modern day age of computer. I think it's a terrible thing. And I happen to think it was a terrible decision for our country made by the Supreme Court. I think it was a terrible decision for our country. And I think it's a very dangerous decision because you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 states, depending on how it ends up, where they're tabulating ballots, and the rest of the world is waiting to find out.
Well, let's hope you get a big boy present tomorrow on Election Day and you get your election night results.
This is all kind of like, he's like that character from Willy Wonka who's just obsessed with TV. I mean, he sees the whole world through the prism of television, and he's like, we have to have an election, we have to have a winner on TV on election night. No, you don't. And let's go back real quick. The media is going to play such an important role.
I was just going to say, I was going to T-ball you up for that, but you don't even need T-ball anymore. But that's where we come full circle to your life's work, is talking about the media. That's why it is incumbent, just because he's going to announce that he won, for them to be doubly responsible, right?
Right, and they're all saying the right things. They're all saying, "Oh, we're going to take our time." Oh, they're all going to say we're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be bullied. We're going to look at the numbers. That's great. This is the press corps that has a really bad track record over the last 4 years in terms of withstanding, intimidation. Yesterday, Jason Miller, Trump aide, was on ABC This Week with George Stephanopoulos, and he basically said, if you count votes after Election Day, that's hijinks and that's Democrats trying to steal election. And there was no pushback from George Stephanopoulos. So already it's kind of being normalized, if we keep counting after November 3rd. But real quick point, if you go back to the midterms in 2018.
Oh my God, we're starting to complete each other. I was just
there we go.
going to say, this is what they did. Every pundit, there was no blue wave. I guess there's no blue wave. Well, there was no blue wave. You're right. They did the exact thing, right, for the midterm.
And why did they think there was no blue wave? Because they were looking at the in-person vote. And that's why Jake Tapper at 9 o'clock on CNN said, well, there's no blue wave. They were overlooking the 25 million early votes. We're going to have maybe 125 million early votes this time. But they were overlooking the early votes. And as the states took their time, days and sometimes weeks, and counted them, it just got bluer and bluer and bluer and bluer. So no excuse to make that same mistake 2 years later. They know those early votes are a treasure trove for Democrats, and they need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, great stuff. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Best of luck to all of us tomorrow. See you next week.
Have a great week.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. Oh, he's right. He starts to, I think it, and then he says it before okay.
You're starting to complete each other's sentences.
Oh, my God. I loved his tweet. GOP, press won't cover the laptop. Media, can we see the laptop? GOP, no. Okay. Yes, press, be responsible. Just because he claims he won. They're trying to set up the same 2000 thing, so then you're a sore loser. Like Trump, or excuse me, like Gore, if you want to count all the votes. Like, you can report that he lied again. Trump lied again and said he won.
Yep.
He did not. That's how you report that, right?